Now it's time for Whispers, your number one source for all things paranormal, with your hosts Jordan Klein and Nick Queen, and produced by the lovely Lola Miller. Whispers is brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours at the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville. Unforgettable, historical, educational.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Whispers on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. It is 6:08 p.m. here in downtown Wheeling. Give us a call, 304-214-1600 if you're out of the area, 1-866-514-1600. I'm Jordan Klein, here with Nick Queen, who's not paying attention.
No, you were staring at me earlier, and I'm not looking at you anymore.
And the lovely Lola Miller. We got a special guest today, Nikki's wife, Lisa.
Hey, what's up?
Give everybody a day off, and we come back Looney Tunes.
I know, right?
It still feels like a Monday to me.
Oh, I know.
That was Garfield. I hate Monday. But
Lisa has an announcement.
Announcements. Oh, sorry.
Her and Lola are in their own world today. We got to be careful, Jordan.
We have a golf scramble coming up for Spiro Academy, September 19th at Robbins Ridge in Senecaville. 8 to 8:45 is sign-ups. 9 o'clock is the shotgun start, and we have a whole bunch of prizes. Hole-in-one prizes, $10,000. Woohoo! A set of Callaway Big Berthas and flat screen TV and much, much more prizes. The cost per person is $50. Four-man team is, of course, $200, and there are cash prizes for first and second place. If you're interested, you can call 304-243-0033 or 304-243-6688 or 740-738-0203. Also, if you would like to sponsor a hole, it's $50, and for $50 more, you could sponsor a hole, and we would also add your advertisement in the Scramble program and also in our Spiro yearbook. So come out and support a good cause, September 19th, Robbins Ridge.
All right, all you golfers out there, get on it while the weather's still golfable.
You notice how she did that better than I did last week?
Yes.
One more little thing.
She never stuttered or anything.
Shut up, Nick.
I have it all written down.
I was reading off the card.
No, he had it written down, too.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Lisa.
One more thing also. It's a 65-foot putt, $2,500 prize if you make that. So, come on out and join us.
So all you putters, make you some money.
Be practicing
That's
putts.
all I can do. That's all I can do is putt. You should see
I'm
me.
not touching that. 10-foot call. No.
Oh, geez, we got a phone call?
No, we have our guest.
Oh, all right.
Well, I'm doing my job.
Well, you're on it.
All right, though.
All right, Nick, you want to introduce the guest?
All right, we have Eric Haase with us. Why are we laughing?
10 minutes later.
We have Eric Haase with us. He's the author of Apocalypse Near. He had a clinical death experience where he saw a vision of Earth's future, and it doesn't look pretty. Is that right, Eric?
Oh, wait a minute. There we go.
You there with us, Eric?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay, and it didn't look good, right?
Well, one side of it didn't look good.
Okay.
The other did, and that was the message, basically, in a sentence, is that, the future of biology activity on this planet is our choice, and it's, the choice of, what we consume. It's basically we're voting with our dollars for our future.
Now, is this like a Al Gore type message?
No, because I'm coming at it in a completely different way, because if logic worked on human beings, this would have been done 40 years ago.
Well, we're not a logical race.
Well, we don't respond to logic. We respond more to mythology, to stories, to entertainment, to, things like that. So I put my message into a book that basically creates a myth that people, I think, can respond to, because entertainment was born from mythology, which was first brought to human beings to teach them how to behave in civilizations in the first cities. That's drama was from this. The the philosophers were trying to teach people how to behave together in groups. But now we've made that into a business of just entertaining ourselves, and we're literally entertaining ourselves to death.
Now let's go back to the beginning. I kind of want to know how you got to this point. What were you doing before this? I don't want to say near death experience, because you said you were actually dead on the table. But what were you doing before this? I mean, was this something you were passionate about before, or?
No, not so much. I've always been environmentally conscious, but never an activist or anything like that. Just I knew it. It made a difference. What I consumed, but I wasn't going around making websites about it like I am now and writing books about it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thought I was doing the right things, but then while I was dead, I had a vision.
While you were dead?
Yeah.
Now, was it like a bright light at the end of the tunnel type of vision?
That's where it started, yes. My undergraduate training was I was studying to be a psychiatrist. I have a Bachelor of Science in Psychology, so I knew a lot about the brain. So while I was having my aneurysm, I knew what was happening to me. I was very conscious I was witnessing my body shut down, like witnessing my brain shut off. I knew I was dying. I actually told my girlfriend at the time not to bring me to the hospital, because I knew if I got there what they were going to do to me and what my chances were.
Wow.
And I went outside and laid down in her front lawn because I just wanted I was very much at peace, and I was leaving my body as my brain shut down, and I felt like I was going up into I was looking at the stars, and I just felt like I was getting absorbed by one. So I did have the going into the light experience. But she did not listen to me and drove me to the hospital. And as they were fixing me, I felt like I was getting pulled back into my body because they were putting me back together.
Wow.
They stopped the bleed, and I went brain dead for a little while.
What exactly was happening? I mean, what caused this?
It's actually a pre-existing condition they found out, something called an AVM aneurysm, which is basically it's classified as a birth defect. It's extremely rare, but it's a little cluster of blood vessels in your brain that don't have capillaries between them. So you could kind of call it fate. It was something that was there, and you could have one your whole life and never know that it's there. They only usually find these things in autopsies.
Did your insurance cover it, being as it was a pre-existing condition?
I was actually uninsured at the time. I was in switching jobs.
Wow.
So I let my insurance lapse, and because I was healthy my whole life, I'd never been to a doctor since I was an infant. I'm a raw food vegetarian. Yeah, I didn't need doctors. So
how old were you at this time?
This was just a few years ago. So I was in my early 30s, and
you feel like you're on top of the world and invulnerable at that point. Still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically I was. Like I said, I hadn't seen a doctor since I was a little kid. I was paying $300 a month for health insurance. I was like, why am I doing this?
Yeah,
so I was looking around for a cheaper option, and in that time, boom.
Well, at least it was covered by somebody.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, it wasn't?
Still paying it off, I'm guessing, probably, too.
Hey,
yeah.
$5 a month, that'll kick it.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that's just, I'm doing what I can.
Yeah.
Well, now, reading through your stuff, you made movies before this. You were
Yeah, I went to film school as well. I graduated from the University of Miami Film School.
Nice.
And I was writing, I've written a few feature screenplays and was, making short films and working in the industry, basically in the commercial industry was another way I was making a living. And after my, basically all I could do after, my craniotomy was they were surprised I lived at all. I was, they said I'd be locked in, be a vegetable.
That sounds really crazy. Craniotomy.
Oh, yeah, no, they took apart, basically what they do is they peel my incision is on the entire right side of my head. And, they peel your scalp back. They cut out a big rectangle part of my skull. And, they throw that in a pan, and then they get to work trying to stop the bleed.
Wow.
And I witnessed all this. I was conscious through the whole thing.
Okay, that's the worst part of this thing so far. I can't even...
Yeah, that
when you said cut
part.
a rectangle in your head, I'm like, okay, then you're like unconscious, and that's...
Well, that was the scary part of it all.
Yeah.
There was no fear while I was just laying in the grass leaving my body. that's what I wanted. And then she drove me. I was right near a hospital, basically blocks away from a hospital. She drove me there.
Women.
Yeah, I was going to say women.
Yeah, they don't listen to me.
Hey.
We got two women sitting here. We might be off the air soon.
All right, now these visions. Now we got to what happened. Like, was this because you were saying that you could feel yourself leaving your body, you can feel yourself being sucked back in? I mean, when did these visions start happening? Like, what were they? I mean, was it like all of a sudden you were zapped in the year 2011 and?
No, I was just laying in the grass and feeling myself leave my body as my brain shut off around me. And the terror started when she started dragging me into the car and driving me to the hospital, because I was like, oh God, I kind of I knew what they were going to do to me, and that's what they were doing to me. So I started going back towards my body. Instead of going out into that light, I was going back towards the planet, and I had a vision of the Earth changing from the blue-green image we all know to a dead moon. And the message I got was, you're going back there and you're going to live to see this happen. But in the opposite direction was an image of the Earth in better environmental, biological condition than it is now. And the message I received was, you're going to see one of these two things happen in your lifetime. And it's a choice. It's not an act of God. It's not anything. This is a human choice. And you're going to see humans make one of these two things happen.
Did you tell the doctors about what you saw?
I only told a couple very close friends and a couple family members, because I didn't want them to think I was nuts, and I wasn't sure if I was either. It was very surreal kind of feeling, and I was like, okay, that was just an image. That was just a dream. It was a bad dream. I didn't really see that. But then as I was, recovering for months after the surgery, the only thing I could do was basically lie in bed. My left side of my body was paralyzed. And watching the news over the months, and then, now into the couple of years since this happened, we've seen what's been, the environmental movement has, been gaining, now it's a giant trend. Everybody wants to be green because we have all these environmental scientists basically saying that, people don't understand that we're near a tipping point where the Earth is going to pass this point of no return, where we're going to see large systems begin to fail, and we're not going to be able to do anything about turning it around. I'm like, yeah, that's what I saw. Maybe I wasn't so crazy. So I started telling people more about this, and then I wrote the book because I began the website consciousconsumers.net to just put the information out there, but I didn't feel like I was getting enough of a response. And yeah, I saw Al Gore's film come out and all these other people talking about it, but wasn't really seeing the kind of response that I feel is necessary for us to catch this in time. So I figured, well, I can go back to how the Romans and the Greeks, the reasons they did produce dramas was to sometimes scare people into acting morally or to avoid tragedy.
Now, how soon do you think this is all going to be happening?
Well, I've had people ask me that before, because there's a lot of, talk about, the year 2012 when the Mayan calendar runs out and all these things. And sometimes I say, we'll be lucky if we make it that long. And I wasn't given dates or anything like that. The message was, you're going to see one of these two things happen in your lifetime. But, for all I know, I could be dead by tomorrow. Who knows?
Yeah, what kind of stuff are you seeing happen? I mean, where everybody kind of sees, the melting of the ice caps, all this stuff. Is there anything else that people are not even paying attention to that you think, that's a harbinger of this?
Well, it's the way I perceived it, and from what I saw, like the way the planet just basically went from blue-green to like looking deader than the moon. It seemed to start very much in agreement with what we've been hearing for 40 years about the greenhouse effect. The atmosphere just becomes such that it's a cloak on the planet. Solar radiation can no longer leave. So, the biological activity of the ocean begins to die. The oceans die. Sunlight can no longer escape. And then all biological activity just begins to shut down at alarming rates. And the planet just basically becomes no longer biologically active.
Well, I know a lot of people have said that we would die off. We mean humans, and that the Earth would be able to just pretty much just shrug us off and just keep going because it's not really.
And that's not what I saw. I saw it all life, like the Earth become biologically inactive. Because the atmosphere became such that solar radiation could no longer leave, and everything died, not just us, all of it.
Yeah, I've heard about that. That's some people think that's what happened to Mars as well. That there was life there.
Really? See, I didn't know that.
I've heard that before from some people. I'm nobody reputable. I'm no scientist, but I've heard that because there was once supposedly maybe life there, and
well, there was water.
There was water.
So if you have water, you could have life.
Yeah, but then it became barren because of whatever ecological disaster that may have happened, which is why we're there looking at it, I guess.
Yeah, because their atmosphere, the Martian atmosphere is like that. Solar radiation gets in, don't get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then without it being able to escape, and all of your green living things die, you have nothing to create oxygen.
Literally.
Yeah.
Everything gets irradiated and kills even the DNA, so nothing can regenerate.
Yeah, boy, that's scary.
It was like I said, and so then I wrote a book basically asking, okay, why are humans just that? Are we this stupid, or is there something driving us to kill our planet off, and why? So I created this villain in my book, which is a pretty bizarre mixture of fact and fiction.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I've seen that it's you call it a novel to some degree, and it's also first off it's wrote by somebody named E.
Yes.
Now I saw your name's Eric, so I was like, okay, maybe just like you're doing a share thing. But E is a character in the book, correct?
Yes, but E is also, this is where fact and fiction kind of come together as well. While I was when I was comatose, when I was coming out of my surgery, there was a brief time there when I was coming back into my body, becoming conscious again, where I had a complete amnesiac fugue, where I didn't know who I was, where I was, what I was. There's complete amnesia. And the one thing I do remember was the tone E. I was just hearing like an E. So that was the only thing I could remember when I woke up. And so I brought that into the story in the book. It's about a guy that comes back from the dead with the message about how to save the planet from environmental collapse. Because the character does have this perception of seeing it all die, but he's also received the equations, which is true. I did receive some higher math, some social calculus, and that's what I was trying to deliver on my website. Like, look, this is a fixable problem. It is our choice, and we can change it.
Oh, wow.
I was going to say, I don't know if I could respond to the math. I'm trying to think of the E, though. What's the E? I'm probably the only musical person here that has no idea.
I'm wondering.
You mean the non-musical person?
I mean the non-musical person.
I felt like this tone that I was hearing, which is like the only thing I could remember from my past before waking back up in my body.
So it had nothing to do with your name.
I felt like that was my name.
Oh, okay, I get you now. I think.
Now this book would it be more? I want to say autobiographical.
I call it I call it hyper reality because of the way I mix fact and fiction. But it is, it's very autobiographical because I'm telling truths of what happened to me, especially my death experience is written literally in there. And then waking up having no idea, who I was, where I was, what I was, that plays out in the book too.
Now, do you remember that?
Yes.
Not knowing who you were?
Yeah. It was a very bizarre feeling. Not knowing who, where, what. Yeah, I was completely wiped. Like my hard drive got erased.
Now, see, I had amnesia when I was young, but I don't really remember anything. I mean, I was young.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at this is something I did really want to ask you about. You use a quote: "If a house divided against itself cannot stand, can a hero divided within himself make a stand?" What exactly are you implying there about the hero? How is he divided against himself?
Well, I set out to also having a education in psychology and trying to make sense of everything that happened to me, what I saw, and the amnesia, bringing all these things together, this person not knowing who he was, I set out to write a story that may in fact only be happening inside the brain of the character. And inside the brain of this character is where he's met with the villain, and I leave the audience in the position of trying to figure out if that villain is real or just a part of himself. Is this just a man at war within himself, or is the war he's fighting really happening? Are these creatures invading from another dimension to have humanity do away with itself by killing off their planet?
Wow. That sounds fun.
Yeah. I wrote a pretty scary story, but I went through something pretty scary. I was, besides being in that amnesiac fugue, I was locked in my body. I was blind, deaf, dumb. I was conscious, but could not gesture, could not communicate with anybody around me.
Now, how long were you, you said it was kind of like a coma. How long were you in that?
That was actually just a few hours, because the terror of me, first of all, I told my girlfriend not to take me to the hospital because that's exactly what I was afraid of.
You were afraid to be in a coma?
I was afraid of being a lock-in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I knew the severity by the way the pain in my head, the way my body was shutting down around me. I knew I was having a hemorrhage and that it was severe, and my chances of life, to live, were very slim, but I had an even much greater chance of, if they got me into surgery, I could live locked in, basically a vegetable.
I know one of the quotes it was on a Tampa Tribune article I read doing some research. You called it like an ice cream headache, a million times worse, and it just didn't stop.
Yeah, it was just
for
going on.
those out there trying to figure out how severe this was, and that brought it home for me because I hate ice cream headaches.
Yeah, and this was like going on until I passed out from it, which was while she was dragging me into the car.
Wow.
And that's why I knew. I'm like, I'm having a severe hemorrhage, and I'm out of here. And I was hoping for that.
Well, yeah, because I think the scariest thing to me ever is to be locked in.
Yeah, and that was the terror. I was like, great, here I am, exactly where. This is why I told her not to bring me to here. And now I am in the most terrifying situation I could ever be in that I can imagine, and I may be here forever. I was feeling the machines inflate and deflate my lungs, and I was being kept alive on full life support. It was only a few hours, but only because I knew my situation and that terror. I basically punched my way out of my coma. And just a few hours after surgery, they told my dad I would not survive. Most likely, I had like less than 2% chance of survival. And they told him he'd be better off if he didn't, because they were looking at my MRIs. They saw how much I bled out into my brain, and my entire skull was full of blood.
Wow. So
they said, yeah, it'd be better off if he doesn't make it, actually. But I did, obviously. And then I'm lying there with, in complete terror, because I'm hearing people walk around me and work on me, and there's no way I can tell them. They're talking about me like I'm going to be there, like I'm a vegetable, like I'm going to be there forever.
Time.
So you were like completely conscious. I mean, just
yeah.
Was it like you had your eyes closed, or were you seeing while you were?
It was like seeing. I call it seeing with my mind's eye, hearing with my mind's ear, because I still had this ability to, at times, like leave my body, and I wasn't hearing with my ears. It was just.
You just knew.
Yeah, no, it was like my mind's ear was hearing, because all my senses were off. And according to medical science, I was off.
Wow.
See, and that's the thing. They claim that, say you're in a coma, that people are down so far. I don't believe that. I think on some level, you still have a grasp of what's going on around you.
Yeah, I was in what I call my light body. Yeah, it was, and that's the other big thing I have to report. That there is a life beyond death. The body is just the vehicle you're in while you're on this planet.
Wow.
Wow, we'll have to get into a little bit of that.
That's some heavy stuff.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to have to take a break, Eric, but we will be right back.
Okay.
We're talking with Eric Haase. Is it Haase? Haase. Okay. Talking to Eric Haase about out-of-body or a near-death experience that he had that gave him a revelation to what our future is. And we're going to be right back. You're listening to Whispers Radio on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog. The former West Virginia Penitentiary housed some of the most violent criminals in history. Many of the prisoners who lived there also died there. It is known for being one of the most bloody institutions in the United States. Don't miss your chance to experience the former West Virginia Penitentiary. Your tour will consist of an astonishing 90 minutes that offers an awesome history, a touch of art, cold hard facts, and an education of the justice system. Tours start 11 a.m. Tuesday through Sunday. For more information, go to www.wvpentours.com or call them at 304-843-4146. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Whispers on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. I had my headphones.
Having a little bit of trouble, buddy?
My headphones were wrapped around the microphone, and I put them on. And
I looked over, and Jordan is attached to the microphone, and with his mouth open for whatever reason,
You look like a fish out of water.
he's trying to unravel himself from the microphone. How did you do that?
Because I am that good.
Yeah.
It is 6:35 p.m. Our number's here, 304-214-1600. If you're out of the area, call us toll-free, 1-866-514-1600. Our guest today, Mr. Eric Haase, we are talking about an near-death experience that he had. Actually, I don't even want to say that. It was a death experience that he had. And while in that condition, he was having visions of our impending doom. Eric, are you with us?
Doom and or future glory, that's the message. It's our choice. It's based on how we treat the life support system that's basically nurturing us.
I was just showing my faith in humanity.
Yeah, I was going to say, we are kind of agreeing with you on the whole, are we that stupid? Yeah.
Have you met my friend Nick?
Hey.
Wow.
Yeah, are we that stupid, or are we in fact being pushed there by a sinister force that wants to take our planet from us? That's the battle I set up in my book.
Well, you throw that up there, I have to ask, what exactly cynical force are we talking about? I mean, I can think of several answers, but I'm not going to say them on the air. But
we're talking about, in my book, an alliance of creatures that are made out of dark matter, powered by dark energy, that are invading from another dimension.
Huh.
Because they are jealously a race as stupid as humanity. We're given a biologically active planet.
We don't know what we have.
We don't.
Until it's
and
gone.
They don't think we deserve it. And they need to keep the planet alive because we're just part of a larger hardware array that runs the multiverse. And they need the biologically active component of our planet to keep their drives running. I'm saying the universe is actually information, not matter. And we are an obsolete operating system that needs to be erased and replaced.
Wow. Now, your book is an interactive book. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, I wrote it to be read online. You can get it on Amazon, and I reference the links in it. But there's an electronic version that goes with the print version, and so it links up to all the websites I was creating as I was recovering, trying to deliver my message. Like my website, consciousconsumers.net, is basically just full of information about what everyday consumers can do to benefit themselves and the life support systems that keep us alive here. And that links up with the fiction I wrote in the book, so it all kinds of work together. That's the E character really is a real entity that's bringing his battle forward. And once again, it actually is me. I'm making all this stuff.
Yeah.
All right, we had a question on one of the chat rooms here. How long were you gone for? How long did this all last?
Well, from the time I was in surgery, about 6.5 hours, they had my head open. My aneurysm was back in my occipital lobe, so they had to take apart the whole right side of my head, get down in there, stop the bleed. That was going on for about 6.5 hours, and then they had to remove a hematoma on the right side of my head, and then put me all back together. And then from that point on, it was just several hours later that they put me in an ICU unit, and it was the next day. Actually, the next morning. This all happened throughout the night. So it's just a matter of several hours after they put me in the ICU that I'm, laying there on life support and hearing a new shift of nurses come in and talk about me, tell each other what happened and how I was probably going to be there indefinitely, that terror really set in, and I was able to break out of my coma. I actually pulled out my breathing tube, sat up in my bed, pulled out all the IVs, and told them, DNR, do not resuscitate me if I go out again. I know what's happened to me. And I shocked everyone. They had to strap me down because I was not ever expected to wake up again. Never mind wake up and talk and move. Yeah.
Now, how long of a rehabilitation is it? I mean, what did you even have to go through for that? I mean,
it was several months of rehabilitation. I had to, learn to walk again. I had speech impediments. The entire left side of my body was paralyzed for a while. So I had to bring that all back. But it was record time, actually. I was supposed to be years and years of recovery.
Now, was this something like, okay, you were given this vision of what was going to happen. Did you kind of put that on hold until, you were back to yourself again? Like, okay, I was shown this, I have to deal with it now. Or was this something that was on the back of your mind, while learning how to walk, while learning how to talk?
Yes, definitely. I actually, the first thing I asked for after telling them DNR, do not put me back on life support. If I'm going to die, you let me go. My dad walked into the room not too much for longer after that, and my girlfriend walked in, and I said, get my laptop. I had her go back to my place and bring my laptop into the hospital, and I just began writing right away.
Wow.
And I basically haven't stopped. And that's the other thing. This book and, like, a lot of the stuff on the websites, it was like automatic writing. I would just have the laptop on my chest, and I would wake up with things written.
Kind of like you were sitting here with a message or sent back with a message that you had to get out of your system, more or less.
Yeah, it was like I got uploaded with this information, and it was just coming out through my fingers, just typing on the keyboard, and I was just going.
Now, you have this movie degree, and you ended up writing the book about it. Are you still planning on trying to make this into a movie?
Well, yeah, the book is basically, I spent after I got home and wrote the screenplay, I spent the next year trying to make the film, and I got close. I almost had the financing lined up, and then America kind of crashed, so not too many people are investing in films right now. So I decided, well, I know I got a story here. I'll write it into a book.
Don't feel bad. They're not investing in anything right now.
Yeah, so the book is the film, basically, and I'm hoping that, if I get enough people reading it and get it popular enough, I still might have a shot at making the film. So actually, yeah, if you want to give some books away to your audience, like the first 25 50 or so people that go to my website and just send me an email, I'll give them a free electronic copy of the book.
Okay, and what's the website address for that?
It's www.consciousconsumers.net.
Okay, and I'm going to now that is on our website. I have that linked up.
Yeah, and there's on the left side of the homepage, you'll see contact C squared, which that's the big equation I got out of all of this was, one of them was E equals C squared. Environmentalism equals conscious consumption.
Ooh.
Because that is what it all comes down to. We know very much firsthand now that it's a consumer-driven economy. And if it's a consumer-driven economy, then it's also a consumer-driven death of the planet, because it's consumers buying manufactured goods that are working, there's no environmental accounting with most things that are created on this planet and sold to people.
How are you living your life different now?
Well, actually, I've always been somewhat environmentally conscious, but I that's the equation, and if everybody just kept that simple thing in their head every time they bought something and asked themselves, okay, do I really need this? How is it being made? What's the environmental cost with this widget? It's something everybody can just keep in their head. E equals C squared. And it is about everyone becoming enlightened to that, they are the problem that's driving this planet into its death throes.
Eric, we got a phone call.
All right.
Who we got, Lo?
This is Sir Tim.
Sir Tim.
I was wondering, while you were out of your body, did you meet any other spirits?
It's like I was getting communicated like in my mind's ear, so I didn't actually have any visual experience, but yes, there was definitely communication going on some type of neurological level. Like I didn't actually hear words, but they were just automatically transferred into me. And that's a lot of the stuff that went up on my website, like these equations.
So now you actually never really actually saw anything else. It was more like you felt a presence, perhaps.
Like yeah, it's really hard to describe. Like feeling a presence, but more like just getting this upload of information. Because there wasn't really any voices, or I didn't see any other entities.
Does that answer your question, Tim?
Yeah.
Hey, Tim, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the DFW in Texas.
In Texas. Thank you very much for your call, sir.
Yeah, because that's kind of what went into the websites and into the book was these uploads of information. And I just try to pass them on.
Okay. Thanks, Tim.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tim. You talk about this book being very interactive.
Yes.
How exactly is it interactive? Is there?
There's links in the actual text.
Okay, so it's not like a question and answer type of thing. I mean, if you want to look into something, I mean, you got links ready.
There's multimedia embedded in the links in the book. So like, there's film clips, there's animations, there's one of the uploads I got was this system of like linguistics and that I call semantic calculus. Basically, it's kind of a high-efficiency linguistic system. So there's a lot of neologisms in the book, like these words that were given to me that are trying to communicate these higher concepts in very brief, succinct terms. So all those definitions are expanded in the text by clicking on the words. Like any unfamiliar words, you're going to get linked to one of my websites where those words are defined and expanded upon. So the story actually, the book is hundreds of pages if you include all of the online media.
Now, the words, are they like a new language, or are they words that we have in our language now?
It's a fusion of words in our language now.
Can you tell us some?
Like the hero is waging peace fair rather than warfare. Which, got a fusion of the words peace and fair. Because one of his missions, besides saving the planet, it goes on from there, is a war on war. And that is one of the things, after waking up in the hospital, like one of the things that got uploaded into me as I was getting put back to planet Earth, and mind you, I did not want to go back there after seeing what happened to it. I wanted to stay out of my body. My body was a mangled mess on an operating table. I did not want back in there. But one of the things I got as I was going back towards Earth, towards my body, was this vision of the entire horror of humankind's past, warfare in general, and, the ongoing slaughter between humans on the planet just kind of all got put into me at once, like that entire horror. So one of the things I did after waking up in the hospital was just turn to somebody and say, I declare war on war. And I just started thinking, has anybody in history ever done that? It seems so obvious. And so that's one of the things this character in the book, which is also myself, that's one of his missions.
Do you think that perhaps the vision wasn't necessarily what we do to the planet as opposed to what we do to each other? Perhaps
it's all
the
nuclear. Same thing. It's all the same thing. I'm saying that, part of this mission of peace fair and reformance art is what a good term for what the book is, which is another semantic calculus term. We've all heard of performance art, which has basically been degraded to like, sometimes just an artist wrapping themself up in saran wrap and reciting some, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The real purpose of art in history has been to, enlighten people, to bring consciousness up a notch. So in the book, part of this waging of peace fair is, conducting these events to take consciousness up a notch, because that's what's missing. That is how we're going to get out of this mess, not only between destroying the planet, but this war on war has to extend to the entire biogeochemical realm. any harm you do to anything alive reflects right back on yourself.
We might have actually been talking about this. You also mentioned making like a new type of entertainment. You call it ectotainment.
Ecotainment. Well, yeah, ecological entertainment. Yeah.
Now, what would that be?
Like the book is the primary example of it, and the film would be the more primary multimedia example of it. Entertainment that delivers a message about ecology.
Like The Happening?
I'm not familiar.
There's
M. Night Shyamalan.
It's an M. Night Shyamalan film about the pretty much plants. I'm trying to remember the
environment just kills off people.
Yeah, it's like it's almost reacting like a virus. The people are viruses.
Then I got to see that film because, in a way, in my story, it's not the Earth killing us off. It is these other entities that are coming to take us out of here before we kill it.
Now, with these other entities, are we talking like other dimensional like spirits, or are we talking UFO, alien?
They're creatures that are made out of information. They're running a more robust and better operating system than we are. And they are made out of dark matter and dark energy, so we can't see them. We never know they're coming. We never know they're amongst us. But they're interdimensional entities. They're not human. They're not alien either because they're not actually alive. They are information.
You know, you say that they're the, and I think I've heard you say before that they're the enemy, but in some degree, fashion, are they also, kind of the heroes to some degree because they are trying to save the Earth?
Well, they see themselves as heroes because they're basically removing us before our damage extends into other parts of the multiverse.
How do you see them? I mean, do you see them as like the enemy of in the book, or do you see them more as?
That's one of the things I explore in myself and in the book. That's why I say if a hero divided against himself,
I mean, in some way, they look like they're trying to. I don't know if they're trying to wipe out humans themselves, or which I guess they would have to be since they're trying to stop us from what we're doing.
Yeah, they need to stop us, and they figured out a way to do that. That I won't give away because it's.
You can tell us.
No, it's part of the drama of the book.
We won't tell anybody.
And one of the things that I wrote that literally scared the hell out of me, where I was like, I shouldn't even write that. That's too frightening. But because they want to eternally do away with our data, because we woke them up. They were happily operating in their region of the multiverse. And I call it the multiverse because I think it's not a universe. That's one of the things I brought back, was with all these other dimensions. It's not a universe; it's a multiverse.
Now, do you think this vision was like from God, like a revelation of what could happen, and
yes, that's one of the things. I have a philosophy minor, so I wasn't expecting when I died to be confronted with the fact that yes, that's one of the things that I perceived while I was leaving. One of the reasons I didn't want to come back was as I was going up into that light, there was definitely a real direct realization that, whoa, wait, there is a God. And it was a very fatherly presence, and it like the universe itself was running from a point of peace and stillness and absolute perfection and light. And it was absolute peace, absolute stillness. And for me, being a person that was educated in philosophy and always looking for answers, from all these other religions and philosophies that were atheistic sometimes, that was the last thing I expected.
Yeah,
was God.
He's got to teach you somehow.
To know.
Yeah, and so yes, I feel like this was a revelation from not a higher consciousness, but beginning at the highest consciousness. And that's what we're all supposed to be striving for with our human life, is always moving towards that higher consciousness. And when we stagnate, when we fail to do that, that's when we get into the trouble. Because we're just in the same place every great empire of history has been in.
Very true.
Yeah, it all falls apart. Once you get to a certain level of creature comforts, you think you're unbeatable, and then your enemies just rise up against you and start picking you off from every other front.
All right, we got another question, please.
I just the reason I said that it was God is because you said that it felt like an upload, and I was thinking of it like from God's spirit to your spirit.
Yeah.
And that that was the only way in my mind that I could actually explain it, and being able to see the things that He sees.
Yes, and so much data too that it's almost like that's why I didn't hear it. It was just put into me. It would have taken forever in an amount of earthly time to get this information, and also I'm just not that bright. Me writing this book, writing all this stuff on this website, I can't take credit for it. It just kind of got put in me, and I just let it come out.
Was there a lot of stuff that got put in the back burner that that you were working on before this happened that you probably haven't even picked up again? Or
well, that's the thing is I've got all this stuff still in there. Like this first book is part 1 of 3 that are already written in terms of the story, the plot, like where this ends at the end of book 3 it's finished. And if this, I get this book to take off, I got the next 2 done, and I actually started a 4th. It's like I could write forever. I'll never
keep it going. Why not?
I'll never have writer's block. I know that. I mean, there's so much data in me already that it's just a matter of being in 3-dimensional time. That's the issue.
Eric, that is all the time that we have today. We want to keep in touch with you, and as your next books come out, promote them, with the show. So
great, yeah. Like I said, people can go to my website, and I'll give away a free electronic copy.
All right, and that is consciousconsumers.net.
That's it, and there's a contact C2 link on the left side of the page.
And you are C2?
Yeah, all the emails go directly to me.
Okay, contact C2, email Eric, say, hey, give me my free copy.
Yeah.
And I have that linked up on our website if you want to. It'll go directly to where they can contact you and get that information and stuff.
Eric, thank you very much.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Have a good night.
All right, good night.
That's really interesting. Like, I was really expecting more of an Al Gore message, and I can't believe somebody in the world hasn't seen that happening or didn't know what it was.
It wasn't really that good. I'm sorry. I was not a big fan of the happening. It's hard to beat Sixth Sense. In fact, it's hard to beat The Village. I'm sorry.
What are you talking about?
Have you never seen The Happening?
Have you ever seen Sixth Sense?
Who are you people? Where am I? I'm having my own little out-of-body experience. M. Night Shyamalan. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
She has no idea who you're talking about.
The Stand, The Village.
Well, I've seen all those, but I thought we were talking about Al Gore's movie.
And then he switches over to the Happening a little.
Well, who watches Al Gore's movies?
Oh, the guy from Futurama who has him on there all the time.
Well, that's because his daughter's a writer.
So Lola, how's everything been? We're just leaving Jordan alone. Jordan can't get into Pal Talk. They've actually been talking about you on Pal Talk and your experiences, and they're like, "Well, he could run his daughter's like, no, he has a Mac." And everybody just kind of just stopped talking about it. Like,
somebody says you need to uninstall and reinstall.
He has a Mac. You can't uninstall and reinstall.
Yeah, you can.
Not that. Yeah.
I don't know why you bought it.
I was with you, Lola, though. I could not. It would. The most disturbing part of the whole thing was the fear of being there, and that's it. You're locked in. You're done. I mean, there's nothing else you can do from there. That would be the.
You couldn't even tell anybody to pull the plug.
Do it. Yeah.
When I was in a car wreck, I mean, I don't even remember leaving school that day, and I wasn't on any funny drugs or drinking or anything like that. But I don't remember that day pretty much at all. And I was unconscious for a couple days or whatever. I remember being in the x-ray room, and I could hear everybody talking, but I couldn't say anything and couldn't open my eyes. And it was pretty scary.
It's freaky. That's crazy stuff.
Oh my gosh, that would, because that's my biggest fear, is that something will happen and I'll just be trapped.
If you're trapped, we'll help you.
We'll
bring this tape in.
I'll pull the plug for you, Lola.
She'll trip over the plug.
Thank you.
I would pull the plug for you.
Thank you. I would do that for you.
We'll talk
too.
spirit to spirit. Okay?
Speaking of legalisms, it's time for CNN News. We'll be right back after the break. You're listening to Whispers Radio on AM 1600 WKKX and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network.
dawn's light. Gotta free my mind, get you out of sight. All across this open sea, sparkle blue beauty like a young man's dream. Oh, my world is falling in, all around me tell me.
The former West Virginia Penitentiary housed some of the most violent criminals in history. Many of the prisoners who lived there also died there. It is known for being one of the most bloody institutions in the United States. Don't miss your chance to experience the former West Virginia Penitentiary. Your tour will consist of an astonishing 90 minutes that offers an awesome history, a touch of art, cold hard facts, and an education of the justice system. Tours start 11 a.m. Tuesday through Sunday. For more information, go to www.wvpentours.com or call them at 304-843-4146.
Now it's time for Whispers, your number one source for all things paranormal, with your hosts, Jordan Klein and Nick Queen, and produced by the lovely Lola Miller. Whispers is brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours at the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville. Unforgettable, historical, educational.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hour 2 of Whispers, where we will be feeding you truth milk through our mind nipples.
Oh my God!
What on God's green earth?
I'm Jordan Klein here with Nick Queen, Lola
That was a
Miller,
bad idea.
Lisa Queen.
Don't even say my name in that sentence.
I know. Do
Jordan-
we really want to be affiliated with Mind Nipples?
How else are you going to get your truth milk? Give us a
Give
call,
me a good old
304.
bottle of Liefermilch, you know.
Jordan's idea is just keep on going and get past it.
Yeah. Maybe if he talks long and fast enough that nobody will remember he said that.
There was a reason that he was a geek when they said that on the TV show.
304-214-1600 if you're out of the area. 1-866-514-1600. We are now joined with Mr. Sammy the Bull. How you doing, Sammy? Ain't seen you in a while.
Doing good, doing good.
Did you hear what Jordan said?
I didn't.
Please don't repeat it.
You are lucky.
Who's lucky, he is or I am?
Yeah.
You guys are mean. Hey,
Well-
I went to Quaker Steak and Lube, the new store up in the Highlands,
Uh-huh.
and I had the atomic wings,
And survived.
and I survived. And let me tell you what, my face felt like it was melting off of my skull.
Have you looked at the mirror?
Let me tell you what, it was hot. It was hot, hot, hot. My lips were blistered. They were red and swollen.
But now your picture is up at the Quaker Steak
Yeah,
and
they
Lube
came out and took my picture,
the
put it up on the
Highlands.
wall.
on Route
He's
70,
famous.
Interstate 70. You see some guy there that's barely hanging on, dear alive.
Covered in sweat and crying. That'd be me.
Was it worth it?
The
Was it
things
really worth it?
the things a man will do to get his name on the wall.
Well, they're saying that you're too quiet, and I'm taking it because you're tired. You did all kinds of stuff this past weekend.
I did.
You raced in a speedboat, right?
Yes, and I threw out the first pitch at a baseball game. and-
Wow.
yeah. Oh, I'll tell you that speedboat thing. Awesome.
That has to be fun.
Oh, my. The only thing,
How fast were you going, first off?
I have no idea, but we were not the last boat in the race. I mean, that one did go past us, but no, he was
So
a
if they
good
did, they had
driver.
because I seen Saturday we was there at the football game. They had like doubles in boats.
Yeah, that's what I was
racing,
in,
that
a
was
V hull. Yeah.
They were moving pretty darn good.
Well, I know I'm claustrophobic. I know this because I can even if I even envision a really tight space, I get kind of like short of breath. So I have on this huge life jacket thing with the straps around the thighs and everything, and then they put this helmet on, and it was so tight because that boat has the potential of really bouncing. That so it's, your face is all mushed up, and then they dropped the visor. And I immediately, I could not breathe. It was like,
Yeah.
get this off of me. But once you get going on the river, then it's different. You've got wind coming in it. And oh my gosh, the one lady says, now I know you'll want to wave to people, so just let go and you can briefly. And I'm thinking, I barely held. I just had my hands on the handles in case if we really did bump. But it's like I was waving to everybody on both sides of the river and everything. It was so awesome.
Sit down, Lola.
I know. And the one turn we hit somebody else's wake, so you can tell by the sound that the whole back end was coming out of the water and stuff. It's like, oh yes, just go fast, go fast, go fast.
Somebody said if Seth MacFarlane made a movie with about Lola, it'd be directed by Seth MacFarlane. It'd be Lola rode in a fishing boat. I'm not sure exactly. I'm not anybody.
I was up at 214. I can hear them boats from there.
Oh, I know.
Really?
I know. Oh yeah, think about my house. They actually rattled the windows, but
they did.
They were rattling the windows. I was in the mall center, 3 stories up, and I mean you could barely, it was just so loud in there that it was, we'd see them going by. Unfortunately, I had to work.
No, those huge hydroplanes, the biggest. I mean, they're not unlimited because the river's not big enough for those, but it's the next stage up, and they're fast and they're loud. So I had the dog down on the river, and she was swimming and diving for sticks and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, she's really got this thing about trucks tend to make her real nervous. But she sat right next to me, and literally you could watch her head. She watched those boats going around that big oval. It didn't faze her at all. I was so pleased at that. But
that's cool.
Yeah. Oh, it was.
I bet that was something.
Awesome. Then I got off, and the guy that does like the emceeing for it, my sister heard him say this before they stopped the boat. Well, I want to interview Lola. So he comes up and sticks a microphone in my face, and all I kept saying to everybody was, that was so bleeping awesome. That was so, So that microphone gets in front, and I had to literally stop myself from saying that. And then he's asking me all these questions, and the adrenaline is still pumping. I don't even know what I said. I was so goofy, and he's going, you just had such a good time. And it's like, oh, I want to do it again. I didn't want to get off that boat. It was so cool.
That's awesome.
So if you're going to be a race boat driver now?
Well, we used to. We had a small hydroplane growing up, so I know what it's like to speed around on the water. Yes.
Go fast.
Give me a car, a motorcycle, a bicycle.
That's her middle name.
Speed. That's right. Oh,
Speed.
The faster you go, the better I like it.
Speed.
I'm excited just thinking about it.
Go, Speed Racer, go.
Sammy, somebody named Beauregard wanted to know how the fireworks were on Sunday.
They were great. Yeah,
Did you do the ones at Ogilvy?
Yeah. One real big one. They were good, though.
I didn't get to see it.
The orchestra was good, or the violins.
Yeah, they had Handyman Negri.
Yeah.
So I was excied.
The guy from
Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers. He was
I
really
was
good.
excited. I was there clapping.
He played the bumblebee on the guitar. He's like,
really?
Oh, man, his fingers were
really
flying.
What?
Was he on Captain Kangaroo at one time? Remember Captain Kangaroo?
Yeah, I remember Captain.
Wasn't he on there too?
That was probably before his time, was it? I mean,
no.
He was in his 20s or 30s in Mr. Rogers.
He's older than me.
Where was that concert at?
That was at Symphony.
Ogilvy, the Symphony.
Yeah.
Symphony
had him.
There was just too much going on this weekend. There really was. I didn't even know Fort Henry Days was this weekend.
I didn't either. And I live right under Ogilvy.
I think like about 4 or 5 years ago, they just threw everything in with the symphony and had up for the weekend instead of doing it separate times.
It's just too much.
Yep.
Yeah.
We were busy all weekend. Yesterday was kind of a washout. So, well.
I'd rather have too much than not enough.
That's true.
We did the Kellis Cup yesterday. That was nice down there.
I know, and see,
the family came down. It was nice.
Yeah, that was a greyhound race at the track. They named it after George.
Wow.
Which, I really had wanted, and I knew you've told me the date time and time again, and blew that nice, one too.
It was nice.
Well,
let's go on to our guestie.
Yes.
Our guest tonight, Manuel Navarette. He has been on our show before as a call-in UFO clearinghouse for those of you on Pal Talk, talking to us about an implant that was taken out of his leg. He's talking to us about UFOs and abductions and all that kind of good stuff. Are you with us, buddy?
Oh, wait. You hit the button, John.
We
Okay.
can't depend on Jordan.
I know.
Look, you heard the mind nipple
Manuel,
thing.
you there?
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay. Thank you.
How we doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Good. I want to thank you for coming back on the show. I know last time you were on, you were sharing a little bit about an implant leg, and we got cut off because we had another guest on, and we just wanted to keep going with that and hear your story. And
I'd like to go back to the beginning. There might be some people, that missed it or stuff. Talking about your abduction and how you got to that, if you don't mind.
Well, I've been, from what I've researched and what I've started to understand, and this all started coming to me, fairly on, in my late teens. But I've been abducted basically most of my life. I know my mom has stated that she was abducted, so it's one of those generational, kind of abductions. Now I'm seeing it now with my son, who keeps saying that the little men come talk to him and they play games. And
now, as a father, how do you feel about that?
It's at first very unnerving, very, very unnerving, because of the fact that I knew what was happening, but I had to try to keep a positive spin on it, because this is a 5-year-old child. I don't need him, completely wigging out on me. So I'm very, very, cautious. It doesn't really help when you try to stay up, to protect him, because they're going to come get him whether they want to or not. I just try to make him realize that, this is something special. This is something that, Daddy's gone through, and I try to more or less tell him that, there's no need for you to be afraid. There's no need for you to be, don't try to, they're not going to hurt you. Nothing's going to happen to you. And he just states, I try to get him to describe to me what happened. And he just states that they come, they play games, and, they make his little cars float. And he thinks it's so cool. And he gives me positive vibes, even though I know in the back of my mind that, it's, it's going to be scary when he gets older, much like it was mine. Mine basically, I just remember the first time, like we talked before, being able to look up, and I was about his age, looking up in the sky and seeing a huge object, bright lights ring with really beautiful, brilliant blue light.
Yeah.
It was honestly one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. But what scared me was this thing was immense. Easily 2-3 times the size of my grandmother's house, if not more. And my grandmother lived in one of those older houses that was just huge. I remember seeing the trees moving like there was a lot of wind.
Yeah.
And I remember not being able to move. Not being able to, move other than just my head. And just trying to think in my head that, I'm scared. And I don't remember anything else about it. I remember waking up in the morning and thinking that, it was just a strange dream. And strange dreams just persisted till I started getting into reading about UFOs, and started kind of putting 2 and 2 together. Finally, about 16 or 17, I finally realized that this was what was happening. I was being abducted. And that really began where the research began, but it also kind of segued my having the epiphany that I was an abductee, kind of led them to an abduction where I remember everything. That's where the actual transplant, or the actual implant, happened. And that was, one of the most vivid of my abductions. And it's just one of the few things that I can remember that, when it was put in, more or less I do, like that's, we talked about, you do hear crunching. You do hear, it's almost like,
That's what
it's kind of like a grinding.
Like stepping on a Cheerio?
Kind of, yeah, kind of like, exactly. Like stepping on a Cheerio. kind of like a cross between that and stepping on new snow.
Now, Taldorf had a question. Do you recall any sounds? I mean, I know you're talking about the crunching, but any other sounds at all during this event?
The only time that I ever remember being, fully conscious for an abduction, the only thing I heard was myself screaming. And that was only because the pain, when the abduction, progressed into the examination. And my trying to get away from everything and trying to do what I could to try to get away from the creatures, and then them beginning the abduction or the examination.
Now, can you give us kind of a description of these creatures? I mean, what exactly typical grays or?
The one I remember, the one that stands out, which is the one with the implant. It started out with me waking up, the entire house being lit up, but it was kind of strange because, I mean, I was used to, we lived on the corner, so I was used to having, car lights go in and stuff like this. It actually sounded like it actually looked like someone had planted a spotlight right outside my window. But there was, I didn't see shadows on the walls or nothing. It was just brilliantly lit up. And I remember seeing, 3 or 4 of these smaller, typical grays, around my bed. And just hearing in my head, the only thing that kept going through my head over and over and over was, remain calm. Nothing is going to happen to you. Just remain calm. And I'm thinking, in the back of my head is, how can I remain calm? I'm looking at 4 little, creatures here. And I just had this overwhelming sense of, like, calming. So I get taken, they make me get out of bed. And I think it's the one thing that really stands out was the way I was egressed from the house. Was, it was through the window. But the strange thing was, it was almost like if we passed through the window. It wasn't like they opened the screen and opened the glass and opened the screen. It's like 1 second I'm standing in front of the window. Next thing I know, I'm completely outside.
But did you float through it, or
was it like a blink?
Yeah,
like through
like
a blink of an
over
eye.
there.
It was almost like the blink of an eye.
Wow.
And the reason I know that we were outside was mostly because, I had no shoes on. I had no socks on. And, how late at night you feel if you've ever been outside and stepped on, like, late night grass, you feel the dew.
Yeah.
The dampness on your feet. And so, that's how I knew I was outside. And just being taken, to this immense object, and the thing was, when we were going into the object, it's like we were met by other creatures there. The only difference was the creatures that were in the object were far larger than the creatures that came out of the object. And just seeing these, 3 or 4 larger creatures, I mean, they were talking about 6-7 feet tall creatures. Still typical gray, large eyes. It kind of reminded me of an old, like a very old man.
So they were like the traditional gray, but it was really tall.
Yes, and I just remember seeing the skin and everything. Kind of reminded me of an old man because of the wrinkles and everything around their, in the face. And it makes me, I for some reason had this image of them being, very old.
I mean, do they have the same facial? Because you're saying wrinkles. Normally, when I think of a gray, I think I'm very smooth, no nose, like a slit for a mouth.
Smaller ones, yes.
These taller ones are very different then, or I mean, do they have a nose? Do they have any other features?
Okay. There are actually multiple versions of the gray. I mean, you have like, the gray type A, the gray type B.
I've never.
You have ones that are called oranges, ones that are called blues. Some of them have pronounced noses. Some of them they have the large eyes, but not like the large wraparound insectoid eyes. Some of them have, the deep black eyes, but they have a face that looks like almost like an old person.
Now, you said that your mother was abducted. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, did she share any of the stories?
She's shared some stories with us growing up about seeing objects and seeing things before, but a lot of it she really kept to herself. She'd always say that. She'd always tell us straight out, this is, I believe it very heavily in this. I believe that this is, that we are being visited, that they are taking people. And she would always ask, we'd always ask her, have you seen, UFOs? And she'd always be like, yes, I have. I've seen things in the sky, but she just really didn't, elaborate a lot of things.
Now, do you think these grays? One of the things I've always heard and read is that they're like genetically engineered. Do you think all of these different types of grays are engineered for different purposes? You're saying inside that they were taller, maybe they have a different function. Do you get that feeling at all?
I really do believe that. There's been a lot of reports from all over the world and from, all sorts of different people that have stated that, and it seems like there is some kind of hierarchy there. I mean, you're talking a lot about, you have smaller grays who seem to do, the most of the bulk of the work, and a lot of these, the different entities seem to have, it's like a structure. It always seems, that the larger ones, whether it be a larger gray or a larger, like, reptilian, are always the ones in command. They are always the ones that seem to be, in charge of everything else. The smaller grays, depending on which one, because there are really, really smaller grays. I mean, we're talking 2-3 feet tall grays. Those are the ones that actually I like listening to a lot of those stories because I've heard people talk about them, and the reason is because people who've seen them, when they come into a house, they say it's almost like looking like they can't compare it to anything other than watching like a dynamic entry, when you see videos of teams like the SEALs or the Delta Force, when they do a dynamic entry, they enter in a certain way to make sure that they cover everything. And when they do it really rapidly. And a lot of people have talked about, these smaller ones moving almost in a military fashion. But it always seems like the smaller ones, whether it's a gray, there's also reports of the smaller, like dwarf-like creatures. Whitney Stryber was the one who really brought those a lot to the forefront. These smaller, like dwarf-like creatures, they always seem to be the ones who always do the work. They always seem to be the ones who do who are going to be put into the realm of danger because they're going to go after they're the ones who actually have to go fetch the human.
They're like the worker bees.
Kind of like the worker bees, and the larger ones, there have been a couple of reports here and there. I know that Betty and Barney Hill, when they were abducted, stated that the ones that were in charge were the larger ones, and they are you rarely will ever see them outside the ship. They're always the ones who seem to be the ones in charge, the ones who seem to be in charge of like the genetic, engineering, or they're the ones who are genetically, who are the doctors. They do the examination. And it seems like there is a hierarchy, whether it's genetically bred like that, kind of like a hive mentality, whether they're bred and born into that role, and that's all that they're going to be for the rest of their lives, or if they're trained to be that way, but it always seems to be that way.
Maybe the little ones are just like babies, and they make them work until they get older. And when they get older, they're really big.
Boy, do we got it mixed up here then.
Yeah, and it always seems to be. I mean, it could be that. It could be one theory easily. And I do know that it would probably be, if you are going to have a society where you are going to be abducting humans and, you know, doing genetic testing and medical experiments, it would be advantageous to you to have a class or a caste of beings that is going to actually go in and do the entry into the house and actually take the human. I mean, because by all accounts, humans, you know, we're bigger, we're stronger, you know, we probably outweigh them, you know, maybe on like anywhere from a 4 to 1 or 10 to 1 odd, you know.
Well, we don't do too much on being bigger and stronger if they get us every time.
Yeah. Well, it seems like they're using it for another method of getting us to, you know.
Yeah, well, you have had certain ones. Look at Travis Walton when they took him, he fought back.
I want him on the show really bad.
He picked up a weapon. He picked up an object and tried to swing it at them. They retreated. People have broken out of the restraint, out of the immobilization.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of effort to do it, but it always seems that the minute that somebody's able to make themselves mobile or they go for something, they disappear. They egress out of there so quick that, you know, and maybe for that reason, they are the ones who take the biggest risks because, you know, I know it would be the same way if it was like, let's say my son, you know, I'm going to defend him to the death, you know, and it is a lot of, there is a lot of things that, you know, that there have been a lot of reports of like people who have witnessed their children being abducted. And upon hearing the screams of that child, you know, that they kick into that, you know, that adrenaline rushed mode that they go, you know, they will do anything and everything for their child. So I would think, yeah, it is going to be advantageous that you would construct a, you know, a caste or a group of entities that is their sole purpose is only to do the work, you know, so you can focus on, you know, the research or the medical examination.
Wow. Now, I know you got the implant. I want to kind of talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
I think we're going to do that one after we come back from break.
Yeah, we got to take a break really quick, and we're going to get back to the implant, what happened, what it felt like, and a little bit more on that. You're listening to Whispers Radio on AM 1600 WKKX and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. We'll be right back. The former West Virginia Penitentiary housed some of the most violent criminals in history. Many of the prisoners who lived there also died there. It is known for being one of the most bloody institutions in the United States. Don't miss your chance to experience the former West Virginia Penitentiary. Your tour will consist of an astonishing 90 minutes that offers an awesome history, a touch of art, cold hard facts, and an education of the justice system. Tours start 11 a.m. Tuesday through Sunday. For more information, go to www.wvpentours.com or call them at 304-843-4146. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Whispers Radio on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. We were getting some phone calls during the break wanting to know what our website was, so it is www.whispersradio.com. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Hi, Barb,
You know.
just by the way. Thanks for saying hi to me. Nice to meet you, too.
Well, and there we go.
All right, our guest tonight, Mr. Mark. What is my problem?
Round two.
Manuel Navarette. And we were talking about abductions and his abduction experiences, and we were just getting into the implants. Are you with us, buddy?
Yep, still here.
Sorry about that, Manuel. It's hard to find good help these days.
Yes, sir.
He picked me up off the street somewhere.
Like, you want to make $1? Okay. So, all right, we'll go into the implants. First off, I know Taldorf asked who took out the implant. Who's the doctor or?
It was a family doctor.
Okay.
And it was just basically because he thought it was like a metal slither. Like maybe I had, smacked up against something, and gotten this, this thing put into my, gotten this thing, slithered into my leg like a splinter. So, it was just, it's one of those things where, a routine exam, just one of those routine exams, and they're going through everything. Much like a lot of people, they get these exams and they find this anomalous object in their bodies. This is what basically happened, and he just, he told me what it was. He told my parents. He showed us, on the X-ray, and then he went ahead and took a local and just took it out, and it looked like a little piece of metal. Nothing major, nothing.
Now, do you still have this, or?
No, I was maybe like 18 when this happened.
Okay.
But I remember him, saying that, this isn't, it was. He said it was for something like this. It felt really light, like almost like if he could throw it up in the air, this thing would float.
Wow.
It felt really light, so he wanted to, get that checked. He wanted to make sure that it wasn't something else. So, I mean, this is one of those little family doctors who's, he's basically delivered everybody in the town.
We got a question. Caller asks, he wants to know how, or he or she wants to know how you can allow your child to be abducted.
Basically, you have no choice. I mean, whether you are going to, if you happen to be there, you're going to be immobilized. You're going to be, they're going to immobilize you. 99% of the time, you're going to sleep right through it. You're not going to know if they're coming for you, unless the only time you're really going to know is if they take you both at the same time.
Yeah.
Which with me, fortunately for me, has not happened. Where both of us have been taken, but I have just, him waking up and saying, that they were here to play. Most of the times you're going to knock out, you're going to be knocked out. You're not going to be, you're going to be taken out of the equation. And you'll see that a lot with a lot of the abductees, that they'll try to wake their spouse, or that there's a lot of commotion, yet the spouse just stayed completely asleep. And it's the only reason is because they are not, they're just going to make sure, they're going to make sure that you're not going to be a threat to them. I mean, obviously, a parent is going to defend his child, a spouse is going to defend his or her spouse, in the event that this is happening. So they want to really try to take that, that factor out, instead of having to deal with, a human who's now in defense mode.
Yeah.
Has there ever been any reports of, because you run UFO Clearinghouse, which first,
Yes.
Can you give us kind of a summary of what the site does, what you do there?
The website address is www.ufoclearinghouse.webs.com. We're basically like I said, a clearinghouse for a lot of information. I did make the site so that I could try to concentrate as much information into one spot to make research a lot easier. It's kind of hard sometimes when you've got people who handle different parts of the country, or people who handle like international, like Australia, New Zealand, Europe. It's kind of hard when you're trying to bounce around all over the internet trying to find this information. So I thought, why not try to do this, with feeds and posting blogs. And I've also wanted to try to set up a place where someone could go to get the latest UFO sightings. I mean, we're talking the last up-to-the-minute sightings, where they're updated anytime, more than just once a month or so. I want to read about what's happening now, where the newest spots are developing, what's the latest happening. I was tired of reading about reports of, this or that happening. They were a month ago. They were 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago.
Well, like I'm looking on the website right now. I'm actually from North Carolina, near Salter Path, so that's already an interesting. And that's one of the ones on the latest news. This happened in August. Well,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't that far back, so that's already gets my interest right there. And do you have any connections that any of these what patterns do you see in these incidents?
You're seeing a lot of things happening that are just completely out there. One I was going to bring up, since you guys are in West Virginia, there was a very prominent incident that happened just a few weeks ago on the 27th of August in Parkersburg, where 3 objects were seen, making these 90-degree turns back and forth, and then they at high speed. Then they ended up just shooting from one end of the horizon to the other in a matter of a second or two, and then just straight away.
Where was this at?
Parkersburg, West
Wow.
Virginia.
That's not far from here, so that's only 3 hours. 2
That's
hours?
the Parkersburg is actually a kind of a hot spot. That area down through the river. That's where all the Mothman stuff happened.
Well, that's
Oh yeah.
Well,
and
Parkersburg.
And you got a lot of these places. There are places right now that are developing into hotspots. Kansas City, Missouri, is one where you're seeing a lot of UFO sightings. Dallas, Texas, the Dallas-Fort Worth area is becoming a hot spot. Places around like Charleston, North Carolina, are becoming as another hot spot. Indiana, of course, is always going to be a hot spot. Tampa, Florida, and even now into the Los Angeles to San Diego area is becoming a very big hot spot. And by hot spot, we're talking like multiple sightings occurring over, spontaneously over and over. Another one that's been a hotspot for a good while is like the Phoenix, Arizona area.
Yeah.
And just seeing a lot of, you're just seeing a lot of places. You're seeing patterns develop. Like lately, there's been a lot of patterns of UFOs buzzing major airports. I live not too far from O'Hare Airport here in Chicago.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that place has always been a hot spot for UFOs. Not just the reported, UFO O'Hare at O'Hare incident that happened a few years back, but even now, you get reports of I get reports of people who say that they're seeing the flight patterns in O'Hare. They stack them up when during the day. They're usually about 45 seconds, 90 seconds apart from each other in landing, and you'll see them stacking up. And I get reports of lights that are zipping back and forth, in those flight patterns, like buzzing planes, and you get a lot of these reports from people who are just in and around the area. O'Hare is a massive airport, so there's like communities all the way around the airport, and you get reports all the time of lights being seen in the sky. We always get reports of ball-shaped objects, buzzing the area. So,
now I got a question. Do you think that this? Do you think it's an increase in UFO activity, or do you think we're just looking now?
A little of both. I say a little of both, because you have a lot of activity that's starting to happen. Look at and as well, you have people who are looking up. Look at the July 4th incident.
Yeah.
July 4th was just a phenomenal, just a plethora of reports that just came in. Why? Most people were looking up because of the fireworks. But I think bit by bit, they are starting to make themselves known. They're starting to get a lot more bold in some of their moves. I have reports that, just the last 48 hours or so, I've had reports reported over MacDill Air Force Base. I think last week we had a couple of them that were over a military arsenal. We've had reports over 29 Palms, which is a Marine base in California. So they're starting to make themselves known. They're starting to make themselves known. They're kind of like getting bold about buzzing bases, buzzing major airports.
Now, since they're making themselves known, do you think that the rate of abductions in I mean, more specifically in our country, are going to increase? To what extent? How big do you think this is going to go, and how long do you think we're going to continue to hide it?
I think in the I think that eventually it will lead to more abductions. I guess if you can say that. Right now, I'm still getting. I get at least one, maybe two abduction reports from people because you can go to the website that UFO Clearinghouse and report. I do have places there where you can make reports, and I've gotten a couple of reports of abductions, entity sightings. Nothing too dramatic. Just waking up to people who have already been abducted. They know the more or less the signs of waking up and seeing these bruises on their body and stuff. So
now this is something else I want to get in. We only got a few minutes left, and I want to. Okay. How do you know that you're being abducted? Like the signs. You just mentioned it. We've had some other people say, well, these people had all the signs. I know that they're getting abducted. What kind of signs do we need to be looking for? To make sure that Lisa over here doesn't wake up one day.
Well, it's not what you're going to see in the movies. It's not going to be you're going to wake up and the room is brilliantly lit and there's, aliens at the foot of your bed. Very rarely.
Yeah.
And, well, that's ever happened. If you wake up, you're going to find, unexplained bruises, unexplained, like burn marks or rashes or scratches that you can't, you can't figure out. One of the few things for me is when I had the abduction happen, where the implant was taken, where the implant was, there was a and I still have it. I'm actually looking at it on my leg right now, but it's a scoop mark. And you'll have a lot of people who are abductees talk about they have these little scoop marks. A lot of them on their legs, some on their arms. It just looks like someone took a very tiny ice cream scoop and just scooped out a chunk of skin. And usually that's not going to be too far from where the implant itself is, But you have, you do have a lot of these signs. I mean, you have.
No, I had a guy tell me one time that he would wake up miles away from his house, from like every orifice, in the middle of the night.
You do have that. You do have people who have experienced that. That's actually how Travis Walton,
Yeah.
How Travis Walton, came back. He woke up, I think it was 20 some odd miles from his house and was, bruised up, bleeding. It just depends really on the abduction. 9 times out of 10, you're going to wake up, you're going to wake up back in your own bed, but the signs are going to be there, the dreams. A lot of times it's just these dreams that you keep getting. That state that you are going, that kind of make you realize that you've been abducted, and after a while you develop the pattern of being able to see these things, and seeing that that, and you start kind of correlating these incidents with the abduction itself.
I mean, is there anything? That someone asked earlier, can protect your child or anything. So you're saying there's nothing. Have you tried anything at all to stop these abductions from happening?
I cannot say because, like I said, that you have had people who have tried and only to find themselves immobilized in the process. People who have seen their child being abducted have reported, just seeing, like a light over their child and then passing out. A lot of the times, like I said, it is going to be, they are going to take you out of the equation. They're going to move you, they're going to take you to a point where you're not going to be a factor in this, so that they can just get the operation done, quickly get the intended target, and egress out as fast as possible. So yeah, basically, no, I've heard of a few cases where a person has overcome the immobilization.
Yeah.
But those are few and far between. And usually what happens is if you're able to break out of this immobilization per se, you are usually, they usually disappear within seconds. People who have gotten up and reached over to turn the lights on, only to have the lights turn on, there's nothing in the room.
Now, now do these experiences kind of rule your life? Like, do you being abducted, is it something you always talk about? Is there something, do you always feel paranoid that you're going to get abducted again? Or
Sometimes sometimes you get that paranoid feeling, like you feel like something's looking at you, like something is observing you. But no, it doesn't rule your life. It's not like you see in the movies. A lot of these movies really exaggerate it, that they can't go outside. They become paranoid. Many abductees lead basically very normal lives, except that they know that the fact that, that you can sense them coming. Sometimes you get these weird sensations, like you'll hear them talking to you, or you'll hear the thoughts in your head, and you know that time is near. A lot of people also report having these strange sensations. They'll be sitting there watching TV, and they'll hear this really high pitched ringing in their ears, and a lot of people have equated that to them listening. They always seem to know what you're doing or what you're watching. So if they see something on TV that they find interesting, they seem to tune in right away to kind of get what it is that you're watching, and then as fast as it starts, it ends. But most abductees do talk about how they can sense when an abduction is coming.
Yeah, I've heard that.
You don't let it. It doesn't really bother you unless it's unless you're just barely finding out. I know when I first found out, it was kind of like scary. But after a while, you kind of get used to it. It's annoying.
Mm-hmm.
People have actually gotten to the point where they actually look forward to the abductions, to being abducted or being
That's
alien.
crazy talk.
It's almost like a Helsinki kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah, kind of. I've heard a lot of people say that it's almost like the Stockholm syndrome, but it's something that you don't let it rule your life.
Yeah.
I lead a perfectly normal life. I have a beautiful wife and a wonderful child, and I don't let this. This is just another aspect of my life. This is just something that I have to deal with, and I will try to educate others and try to talk about it and try to research it, but I'm not going to let it, I'm not going to sit there and live in fear with, a shotgun in one hand and a baseball bat under the bed or something. So.
All right, we are out of time, Manuel. I want to thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you
UFO Clearinghouse is the website.
Uh-huh.
And
UFO Clearinghouse. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Webs.com. It's www.ufoclearinghouse.webs.com.
Okay.
And I thank you guys for having me.
Thank you very much for sharing your stories with us. And
no problem.
We'll keep in contact. I'm interested to hear more and hear more stories that you get. If you got a UFO story, contact Manuel. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. You guys keep going. The great job you guys are doing with the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
It's just some crazy stuff. I don't mean like crazy like, wow, he's crazy. I mean like crazy like, wow.
Yeah.
That's heavy, man.
I just wonder, since it was something that was like his mom had it, and then now his son had, and he has it, and his son. I'm wondering, if their life, some aspect in their life or stories that they told, helped play a part in what they're feeling. Or what they think they're experiencing.
Mine, I don't know how I'd act. Like, I don't have any kids, but I can imagine like knowing that my child was going through this, and the only memory I have is painful and me screaming.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I know that my child is being put to that too, and I think that's just hard for me to grasp. That would just be like a hard thing as a parent. Anybody?
Well, yeah. I mean,
of course.
I'm not a parent yet, but I have nephews and nieces, and I'd put up a good fight for them.
And even the worst part is that you try to stop, and there's nothing you can do. That's. But I know, talking to Joe Montaldo, he has said, and a lot of these other guests that we've had, this is all a generational, that they're supposedly testing for each of these generations, and I guess keeping a record of it to some degree.
But to what end? That's what I don't understand at all.
That's a hard question to ask about an alien abducting people. To what end? But
well, I'm
sorry. That was the worst.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry, Lise. I'm so sorry.
No, but I know what you mean, though. Why are they doing this? And who knows? We can't. Their agenda would be totally different from ours if assuming you. It's how could we understand it? I guess.
The main question I have is if they are truly, and they would have to have the technology to come here.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they even care? I mean, they have this technology. We're so dumb, I mean, the first thing that's what their big fear is with the governments is that people are going to panic. We're going to, all the movies and everything. It's like, okay, shoot them up, shoot them down.
Mm-hmm.
And, if they truly are as technologically advanced as it would seem, then why do they even bother? I mean, if they need something here, then just come and take it.
It makes it scarier that, even Joe Montaldo had said that they can track you no matter what. They don't need an implant. That people are starting to think that they're mill labs, which are military labs, that are the ones that are actually doing these implants into people. That they're not.
So they can track them when they're.
That they're tracking us.
Yeah.
The military here.
Yeah.
Is tracking us.
Yeah.
They're putting them in us for whatever reason. So.
Well, that's
that's something different. That's something a little bit different,
Yeah.
And then you start wondering, well, why are they doing this generational thing? And then you start getting into a little bit of more of a, So, all right.
Who we got next week, Nick?
Next week we have Patrick Burns from True TV's Haunting Evidence, co-author of The Other Side, same book we talked to Marley Gibson about last week.
Yeah, and we got some
and we have
giveaways for that too.
Yeah,
right?
we have some giveaways for that, and then we have Tara Ciampa and Joe Job from
Visions Magazine.
From Visions Magazine. And real quick, Lisa, you got very
Yeah,
quick.
I just wanted, if you weren't here at the beginning of the show or you needed the numbers again for the Spiro Academy Golf Scramble, it's 243-0033, 243-6688 are the two numbers, the 304 numbers, and 740-738-0203, and that's for Spiro Academy Golf Scramble, September 19th at Robbins Ridge. Come and join us.
All right, everybody, that's all the time we got this week. Catch us next week. Until then, don't be afraid, only believe.